All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into a case that's, well, pretty disturbing.
Definitely not for the faint of heart.
No, not at all. We're talking about Mario Normore.
Ah, Mario Normore. American serial killer, bank robber.
Yeah, committed 4 murders in Oklahoma City,
Back in 2017.
2017. And the really crazy part, this was just a few months after he got out of prison for robbery.
Talk about a quick return to a life of crime. Really makes you think, doesn't it? About the system, I mean.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, what happens when someone serves their time, gets out, and then...
Goes on to do something even worse. It's a terrifying thought.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we're going to try to unpack today. We've got court documents, news articles, even his Wikipedia page, trying to piece together this whole twisted puzzle, you know?
It's a fascinating case in a morbid sort of way.
Yeah, definitely. So how about we start with what we know about Normore's early life?
All right, so he was born in Oklahoma City back in 1991. And it seems his path towards crime, well, it started pretty early. He even joined the Rollin' 20 Crips gang.
The Crips, huh? Not exactly known for knitting circles.
No, definitely not. Gangs are often entrenched in a culture of violence. Dangerous for everyone involved, really.
Right. It's not just about individual choices, the environment you grow up in.
It shakes you. It absolutely shakes you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this ties into his 2010 robbery conviction. He got 8 years for that one.
8 years. Gets out in May of 2017.
And then, boom, just a couple months later, the murders start.
It's a chilling timeline. You almost wonder, did prison harden him?
Make him even more dangerous.
It's a possibility, for sure. A disturbing one, but a possibility nonetheless.
So let's talk about those murders. His first victims were Bashar Burks and Ashley Easton.
Right. And the thing is, Normore actually worked with Burks at a recycling plant.
So he knew him, used that connection to...
So his advantage, exactly. Basically tricked Burks into giving him a ride home, knowing Easton would be there too.
It was a setup then, not just a random encounter.
Premeditated, it's a key legal term, premeditation, meaning he planned it out, adds a whole other level of seriousness to the charges.
Yeah, no kidding. So he gets them in the car.
An argument breaks out, and then bang, Normore shoots them both.
Jeez, just like that.
He later claimed Burks was reaching for a gun. But, got to take that with a grain of salt.
Especially considering him orchestrating the whole thing.
Exactly. It's like he was setting the stage for his own justification right from the start.
And this is where it gets even creepier. So they find Burke's car. It's been burned.
At first, investigators thought it was an accident.
Then they find Easton's body in a ditch nearby.
Yeah, so clearly he tried to cover his tracks. Thankfully, the truth came out.
But it shows how calculated he was. Okay, so then we have Sierra Howe, 20 years old.
Normore knew her. And this is where his cousin comes into the picture, Brenda Lee Butler.
Okay, the cousin.
Yeah, they were doing robbery together. Normore was the muscle, Butler was the getaway driver.
And Butler had no idea, right, about how bad things were going to get.
From what we know, no. He got caught up in something way darker than he ever imagined.
So they kidnap Howe. They want to steal her car.
Right. But according to Butler, Normore's plan went way beyond just robbery. He wanted to execute her, get rid of the witness.
In a forest, wasn't it? God, that poor girl.
It's a horrifying thought. But here's something interesting. Butler actually tried to save her.
Really? How?
He offered to fake the shooting, hoped she could play dead, maybe escape later. A tiny bit of humanity in a very dark situation.
Wow. That takes guts. Too bad Normore wasn't having it.
Yeah, he got impatient, shot her herself, and her remains weren't found for months. Imagine the agony for her family.
Horrible. Just awful. And then there's James Knowles. He was actually Normore's landlord.
That's right. And this one, well, it's probably the most perplexing of all the murders.
Because they never found his body.
Exactly. Still missing to this day. And Normore's explanations, they were all over the place.
I read that somewhere. Like 1 minute he was saying Knowles was a snitch, the next he owed him money.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if he was just grasping at straws, trying to justify another senseless act of violence.
Maybe he just liked killing. God, that's a chilling thought.
It is. And it also speaks to his manipulative nature, using whatever excuse suited him in the moment.
Right. Okay, so then there's Butler, the cousin, who almost became a victim himself.
Yeah, talk about a terrifying situation. Normore actually tried to kill him during one of the robberies. His gun jammed, luckily.
Oh, wow. So Butler's testimony was key in bringing Normore down.
Absolutely crucial. But think about it. Betrayed by your own family, involved in these horrible crimes?
And then almost killed by the guy. That's a lot to process.
No doubt. And that brings us to Normore's arrest, October 2017.
Right. But here's the thing. They arrested him for the robberies, not the murders. Not yet.
It's like this ticking time bomb, right? He's behind bars, but the worst is yet to come.
Yeah. So how did they finally connect him to the murders? What was the missing piece?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll unpack the investigation, the legal battles, and try to understand the psychology behind these horrific acts.
Okay, so we left off with Mario Normore in jail. for robbery, but
But the murders are still sort of looming over everything, like a shadow.
yeah, exactly. He's locked up, but the really big hammer hasn't dropped yet. And then,
And then almost a year goes by. It takes time sometimes, to connect all the dots.
so it wasn't like an immediate haha moment for investigators?
Apparently not. It seems like they were building the case slowly, methodically.
So what finally led them to Normore? Was it like DNA or?
Well, a lot of it seems to have come from the robberies he was already in for.
Right, right. Those robberies where his cousin, Brandon Lee Butler, was involved.
Yeah. And Butler's role in this whole thing is, well, it's complicated, to say the least.
Complicated how?
He's an accomplice, right? Helping with the robberies. But then he also becomes this crucial witness for the prosecution.
That's a wild turn of events. Why would he turn on Normore like that? I mean, they were family.
A few reasons, probably. First, he was granted immunity, so no charges for the robbery.
Okay, that makes sense. Get out of jail free card. But still.
But still, there's got to be more to it, right? And I think there is. Butler almost died because of Normore, that attempted murder.
Oh, right, right. The gun jammed.
Exactly. So you got to figure that played a part. Maybe he felt like he had to do something to make things right.
Or maybe he was just scared of what Normore might do if he ever got out.
Could be. Fear's a powerful motivator.
So Butler's testimony, was it like super detailed? Did he spill everything?
Oh, yeah. It was chilling stuff. He talked about how Sarah Howe was begging for her life right before Normore shot her.
Oh, man. That's heavy.
Yeah, it really painted this picture of Normore as cold-blooded, ruthless. And of course, on top of all that, you've got the jailbreak attempts.
Those definitely didn't help his case, did they?
Not one bit. And we're not talking about some half-assed attempts here either. These were planned out, violent.
Yeah, the first one was during a riot, right? Back in 2018?
Yep, at the Oklahoma County Detention Center. He and a couple other guys attacked guards, smashed security cameras.
Made a shank, too, I heard. Like something out of a prison movie.
Pretty much. And then, just a few years later, he tries again. Tricks a guard into opening his cell, beats him up.
Tries to break another inmate out. Crazy.
The guy was desperate. Clearly wasn't going down without a fight.
So all this is happening while he's waiting for his murder trial. Talk about a mess. What happened at the trial? Did it go as planned?
Well, actually, there was a pretty big twist. In March of 2023, Normore decides to plead guilty to everything.
Wait, seriously? He pled guilty?
Yep, all 4 murders, all the robbery charges, the whole 9 yards.
But he was facing the death penalty. Why would he plead guilty? It didn't make any sense.
Seemed like hearing the victims' families testify really got to him. He said he wanted to spare them more pain.
Huh. I don't know. It's hard to know what to make of that.
It is. But the plea deal meant no death penalty. Instead, he got 4 life sentences. Consecutive, no parole.
So basically, he's never getting out. Still, you gotta figure some people were upset he didn't get the death penalty.
Oh yeah, there was definitely mixed reaction. Some felt like true justice wasn't served. Others were just relieved it was finally over. They could start to move on.
I guess there's no easy answers in a case like this.
Nope. And of course, you've also got the family of James Bowles, the one whose body was never found. Talk about adding insult to injury.
It's like this awful open wound, never getting that closure.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that sometimes, even when the legal side of things is done, the pain just lingers.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, the crimes, the trial, the victims. But I want to switch gears a bit. Talk about the why, the psychology behind all this.
Ah, the million-dollar question. What turns a person into a serial killer?
Yeah, it's easy to just say he's a monster and call it a day, but
But there's got to be more to it than that, right? Some combination of factors that leads to this level of darkness.
it's a question that's been around forever, right? What makes the serial killer? What makes someone do these things?
It's a real head-scratcher. Criminologists, psychologists, they've been trying to figure it out for ages. And honestly, there's no easy answer.
Yeah. If it was easy, we probably wouldn't have these problems in the first place.
Right. It'd be nice if it was just one thing, one gene, one bad experience. It's way more complicated than that.
So where do we even start? With Normore, I mean, what clues do we have?
Well, we can look at his past, for one thing. Crime at a young age, the gang involvement, the robbery conviction.
So he was already headed down a bad road, long before the murders.
Seems that way, yeah. And the research shows that usually it's a bunch of things all mixed together.
Like what? What kind of things?
Some experts think some people are just, wired differently. Like maybe their genes make them more prone to violence, or maybe something happened to their brain, an injury or something.
Or even it's a really messed up childhood.
Exactly. Trauma can leave a lasting mark.
But it can't just be about, like, what was going on inside their heads, right? The environment's got to play a role, too.
Oh, absolutely. The environment's huge. Think about it. Poverty, no jobs, violence all around you.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster, especially for someone who's already vulnerable.
It's like a perfect storm almost. All these risk factors piling up on top of each other. And then in Normore's case, there's another layer.
What's that?
He gets out of prison after 8 years. And then what?
What?
What
It's
support does he have? What opportunities? It's tough for anyone to re-enter society after being locked up.
especially for a violent offender. People are going to be scared. Nobody wants to give him a chance.
Exactly. It can feel impossible. And that leads to isolation, desperation. Sometimes they just go back to what they know,
Crime.
right? It's called recidivism, the revolving door of the justice system.
So in a way, the system kind of sets them up to fail.
It's a tough question, but it's one we got to ask. Could things have been different for Normore if he'd had more support after prison? Maybe.
Maybe he wouldn't have gone on to kill those people.
Maybe. We'll never know for sure.
It's a lot to think about. And it's easy to get lost in all the dark stuff, but we gotta remember the victims.
Always. They're the ones who paid the ultimate price.
Bashar Burtz, Ashley Easton, Sarah Howe, James Knowles. His family still doesn't know where he is.
It's heartbreaking. And while Normore's behind bars, that doesn't erase the pain. Not for the families, not for anyone affected by this.
It's like this whole case is just one big tragedy. But if we can learn something from it, maybe that's a start.
I think so, yeah. If understanding these cases even a little bit helps us prevent another one, then it's worth it.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, keep asking questions, keep learning. Check out the Charlie Project if you want to learn more about missing persons cases. And we'll put a link to the Oklahoma Department of Corrections website, too, if you want to dig deeper into Normore's story.
It's a case that sticks with you, that's for sure.
Definitely does. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder it all. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and take care of yourselves. Chi-A-A-A.